Hey guys, Andrew Davidson here, and welcome back to another As Per My Ability video. If you like what we do here at As Per My Ability, please comment, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so that you know when we post new videos. I heard through the grapevine that if you hit the bell, it's 7 years good luck, but that's just what I've heard. So let's get into today's video. Now, in today's video, I want to talk about Arkham Horror, the living card game. Now, for those of you that don't know, if you haven't been following my channel, Arkham Horror, the living card game, is one of my favorite games of all time. Narrative games, anyways. I absolutely love this game. I have everything for it. I have played through all 6 campaigns or whatever. I've played through all of the campaigns. I've played through almost all of the one-offs. There's one that's called The Blob That Ate Everything that I have not played yet, but I do own and I will play soon enough. But at the time of recording this, I have not played it. But I do own everything for this game. I love the way that the story goes. There's a lot of things I hate about it too, but I really enjoy what they do with this game, with the mechanics and the theme and kind of the marriage between them. So I want to talk about the latest campaign that Shanine and Shanine is a contributor at As Per My Ability. You've probably seen her before. And I want to talk about the campaign that her and I just finished. Now, the latest campaign that's at least out, available for purchase, is called The Dream Eaters. Now, the Dream Eaters campaign, for those of you that don't know, all of the campaigns are 8 scenarios. You get 2 in a deluxe box, and then you have to buy all the additional ones. It's a cash grab, right? But I'm hooked. So the Dream Eaters is very, very different, which is why I want to talk about this campaign and why I've not talked about any of the other campaigns previously. This one's very different because it has 2 distinct narrative lines. It has what they call Campaign A and a Campaign B. And the goal of the game is to have Campaign A played by one group of people and Campaign B played by a separate group of people, and they play individually. So they're not playing at the same table or anything like that. And they play individually, and they're not allowed to talk about what happens in their games because they're tied together. That'll make more sense in a moment, but that's kind of how it's set up. There's Campaign A, there's Campaign B. You don't know what's going on in B, and B doesn't know what's going on in A, and there are certain things that intersect that will make Campaign B different because of what Campaign A did, and vice versa, and all that thing. So the theme of it, the Dream Eaters, is Campaign A takes place of these investigators who have gone into the dream world. They are asleep in a hospital. They are in a deep, deep sleep. It's almost kind of an Inception sort of thing. They are inside of a dream world. And Campaign B takes place of the investigators that are in the waking world, or the real world. And they start off at the hospital, kind of like watching their friends be in a coma. They're watching the people that are in the dream world. Campaign A, Campaign B, they both just progress on their own. Each table, or each group I should say, does each one together, not simultaneously, but we do A1, you do B1, and then we can't go on to A2 until you're done with B1, and then we kind of move together. And at some points, there's what they call interludes, where you do get together and you kind of report little fragments of things that you've done that's going to mess with what the other sides are doing and things like that. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Some of the things that they've implemented, they use the use of a black cat who's traveling between the worlds, the dream world and the waking world. And this black cat can talk. It's very anthropomorphized, and it gives messages to your other group about little things that are happening. Bad stuff happens. There's monsters, there's creatures, there's all the Arkham Horror stuff that you would expect in it, but it's cool because you have these separate groups playing at the same time. Now, having said that, unfortunately, Shanine and I did not procure a second group to play. And so what the game recommends, if you don't have another group to play with, is that you double fist. You create a deck, you create a character, essentially, and you play that. Okay, this is my person for A, and this is my person for B, and you kind of double fist. And you play A, then you play B, then you play A, then you play B, then you do interlude, A, B, interlude, things like that. That is what Shanine and I did. We did not play with another group, which now that I've completed, or we have completed the entire campaign, I think would have been incredibly awesome, because it takes away from the experience when things are happening in your A campaign, but you know why, because you're like, well, we played the B campaign and someone dies, so of course that's why they're splurting up blood in the hospital, their coma body or something. And so without that information, if you played with a second group, you would just read that narrative and be like, oh crap, what the heck is going on in there? I really enjoyed the Waking World scenario a lot more. I was more tied to that one, plus I was more tied to the character. I think I had a better character for that scenario. The campaign A goes into the Dreamland. That one was just a struggle, and the story seemed kind of nebulous at times. You're kind of traveling around. We never performed very well in any of the scenarios at all, as opposed to the B campaign, where we did fairly well, I think, most of the time. But I think it's cool what they're doing. And I've been thinking about innovative games and just innovation in games, and it's such a cool experience to have one of my favorite narrative-driven card games come up with this example, or this idea, this concept of like, we're going to split this campaign into multiple narratives, 2 different narratives. So you have this dichotomy of stories, and we'll have 2 different groups play separately, and they don't know what's going on, but a lot of times things will, like I said, they will cross over. You'll have interludes, and the representative from group B will say this or this or this, and you're like, oh, okay, so I guess we're setting up our game this way. And then we'll say, well, we have to report, the black cat tells you this, 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 and this. And they go, oh, okay, so-and-so has died, so I guess that card's out of our deck or something. You know, I'm trying not to really spoil it, not that there's a whole big twist to spoil, but the Dream Eaters campaign, I'm going to try to just wrap it up since I've already just explained everything about kind of how it works. I think is the best campaign that they have released that's on the market right now so far. I had so much fun with this game. Shanine and I had so much fun. We were constantly trying to get together late at nights after work, bloodshot eyes, like tired, but like, no, we're gonna play. Which one are we on? Are we on A or are we doing B tonight? Oh, we're on B tonight. And like, oh, then the interludes, and we even gave the black cat a name, which it doesn't have a name in the story, but we started naming it because it shows up and whatnot. It is absolutely brilliant. If you are an Arkham Horror LCG player out there, I cannot recommend the Dream Eaters enough. However, caveat, I think playing it with 2 separate tables, 2 separate groups, would be killer. I really do. Because it's that sense of, I don't know what's going on in their campaign. And so when things happen that are creepy or weird, you're just like, okay, you know. And then once the whole thing is all done and said, everyone's played the whole campaign, and you come to the end of the story, then you can talk and say, well, this is what we were doing. We fell down into this deeper world, and I'm just trying to make things up or whatnot. And then that seems like a pretty good reason to bring the 2 groups together for a night out at McDonald's or something and talk about your campaigns. I think it's a really cool idea. The last campaign that they did was it dealt with witches and kind of an Illuminati sort of group, like a secret society kind of thing. And that campaign had a pretty big moment in it where you as the players make a huge like left or right turn, narratively speaking. And at the time, I thought that was really cool. They hadn't done that before. Most of their games, I should say most, all of their games leading up to that point were relatively linear. You could knock the narrative a little this way or a little that way, but you're still going to get to wherever you need to get to. But with the Witches one, there was like, whoa, we're heading in a whole different, like we're fighting on this side instead of we're fighting over here. The objectives are totally different. The scenarios are totally different. The setups are totally different. I thought that was like completely stellar. It was like, this is awesome. Until the Dream Eaters. The Dream Eaters really blew my mind. I love the idea of how they have the narration set up in this dichotomy of narrative. Well, I'm out of breath. That's my final thoughts, or those are my final thoughts on one of my favorite games of all time, Arkham Horror, the living card game, which is a cooperative game by Fantasy Flight Games. If you have not picked up the Dream Eaters, I highly, highly recommend it. Thanks everyone for watching As Per My Ability. I look forward to seeing you guys all at the next video.